We are live. Hello, Slater community. To anyone that's watching, I am joined by the infamous Irish surfer. Can I describe you as that? I don't know if you are an infamous. I know you're an Irish surfer, but infamous maybe,
Not infamous,
maybe not. Okay, but I'm here with Alan, and I know him actually because we did a Webflow episode many moons ago, and then he came to the London Webflow meetup, and he is a very, very talented dev who is getting more and more involved in community stuff, and has recently DM'd me about Slater Access, and is now making a lot of interesting things in Slater. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm just been playing around with it, and just I suppose I think the last time I was talking to you, I was really, really in the kind of more the no code space of like back end development and making things more, adding more functions. But in the last 6 months, I've been using a lot more JavaScript, and that's where Slater's kind of come in. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you are coming at Slater from more of a technical dev background. I think a lot of people in the Webflow space are like, yeah, like I know enough to be able to edit code and stuff, but you actually have like technical chops to be able to, you know, hard code stuff, can't you?
Well, like I'm more like into like Webflow and the no code and using no code tools. But what's awesome about this is the AI integration. So like since ChatGPT came on board, like the ability to write scripts, like if you have the right kind of language in your head, it's way easier. And yes, like I suppose that's the thing that Slater is doing, and it's like seamless integration with Webflow is pretty awesome. But the why I've started using it more, the main thing I've been using it for recently is that Member Stack have released 2.0, and inside Member Stack 2.0 is these things called member scripts, and they're awesome. They're basically attributes, but they're not as like seamless as the FinSuite attribute library, but they're scripts. They give you a bit of um, they tell you what to do in terms of where to put attributes. You put it into the custom code area and add it to your site, and they've done the work for you essentially. But when you're using custom scripts instead of like little attribute links like with FinSuite, the Webflow limitations come in, like the 5,000 or 10,000 character thing comes in pretty quick. So that's where Slater comes in. So yeah, it's been cool.
Interesting. Okay, so one of the big reasons why you're using Slater is obviously the integration with Webflow, but also the character limit. A lot of people in the community have said, "Why is there this character limit?" Like, but it seems like quite a big reason to use Slater. And I guess I always find it really interesting how Webflowers are using kind of Webflow as if it were like the plate to hold all the food, and then they've got like all these other different tools that they're integrating stuff with, whether that's like Make or Zapier or MemberStack or whatever. And so you are using just MemberStack and Slater and Webflow at the moment, or how are you currently approaching this project?
Yeah, so it's front end is Webflow. The gated application kind of stuff is MemberStack. Zapier, we're using Zapier as well for some logic, and then a lot of jQuery through now through Slater, and that's kind of speaking to MemberStack and Webflow at the same time. But yeah, it's
Interesting.
pretty cool because it's like as you said there, like I've always said that I see Webflow as VS Code for visual developers as opposed to, I don't see it as a Figma, a design tool. I see it as a development tool. And Slater basically has shown that it proven that it is, like, even more so. And I know you can integrate, you can have GitHub, and you can go, that direction. It's a little bit more, you need a bit more technical knowledge, but like Slater just makes it so easy to just connect your project and go in. Like, it's obviously in its infancy, um, but so far it's a really really fun tool to work with.
This is exactly the reason why we're doing these calls, because we want those great quotes that I'm going to then chop up and put on
Are
social and be like, listen, it's
you going to
not
make
just
me?
us saying it. We got to get that user content. So let's dive into the project now. Is it all right if you share your screen and we can have a little look at it?
Yeah, so I have to be a little. Yeah, I can show you what I'm doing on Slater, and then yeah, I'll show you how I've set up Slater, and then I'll show you a cool thing that I figured out yesterday. Like, I literally only figured
Shut
it out.
up. Oh my god, we got some nuggets. Okay, show us what you can show us, because obviously I understand that you are showing us your naked code.
Yeah, so I'll how do I
At the bottom it just says
present?
present, so it should be able to, and then I can add your screen to the screen.
Oh, well,
So just to be clear, this membership site is for this is Happy DevFlow. Am I
no,
right
no,
in
no,
saying
no.
that?
This is for a company that I'm working for. So,
Ah, sorry. Okay.
so, um, but yeah, look, I'll just show you what I'm doing here. So what's I'm using these pages. Everything here at the moment is global,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got my various different um pages, but I'm using this. At the moment I'm just using this, what I have set up as a global page. So it's deploying to the whole of the front end of Webflow. Now, what is really awesome about these pages, which I love, is that these are comments. So when you read the code, when you go into Slater and you read the code, like, these are your comment fields. So originally I didn't notice that, and I was like, making writing out these scripts, and I was adding in my comments up here. You can see. So that this is.
Mm.
But what's lovely now is that this here is actually a comment. So when I go look at it, you inspect your element. It's there's a comment saying checklist and progress bar, and then underneath I've got my own comments. But this just makes what I really love about this feature is just the management of it. Instead of having
Mm.
to go into a folder and scroll down, or find what you're, control F and find everything you're looking for. But I'm just able to flick through these different pages, what Slater calls pages, which is essentially just comment sections inside the Slater JavaScript folder, which is so cool. I love it. I think it's great.
That's a really interesting use case. I haven't seen anyone use it like that, as specifically like the comments for your code, so that you can manage it um, as clean and easily as possible. That's awesome.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. Yeah, but that it just was a little um yeah, it just was a nice eye opener because we yesterday there was that live stream about timing, and I have experienced the issues of Slater timing. So I was like trying to figure out what was going on and going in and yeah, inspecting the Slater folder, and it just that's when I noticed that these pages were actually just little comment sections, which was really cool, and I loved it. Um, so I can explain what's going on in this code. So I did a video ages ago, could have been 6 months ago, on how to make a CMS-driven progress bar. And at
Mm.
the time, I did it using class identifiers. But recently, I've got more into using data attributes,
Mm.
and, and this is basically a progress bar that updates a count item based on the number of CMS items that are available. They're checkboxes, and then it counts the amount of times that the checkbox is checked, and then calculates that. So this here calculates on page load like 100 about a second after the page load, just to make sure I was having it loads and then it reloads, if you know what I mean. So it calculates straight away and then it does a reload. I just put that in because just in case there was any uh, delay in the data being displayed on the front end. And then this here is the function of the checkbox sending data to member stack, and then the recalculation of that particular checkbox. So you can see it's
Mm.
potentially this could be given to someone and using data attributes and they build out their checkbox. It should be literally a plug and play kind of thing. It's but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Huh. And I guess, I mean, you're not able to show us how this plays out on the
I
front end, are
can't
you?
show you how this plays out,
Okay.
unfortunately, but
No
yeah,
worries.
I just can't show that. But what um yesterday we were talking about, there was the form submit issues. It was just brought up, and I've noticed that as well. So I've had to use like these mouse down, mouse up, and click. Um, yeah, to instead of triggering a form submit, you trigger like a click function. So it's acting like the user is clicking on a form and sending it, and that's just I believe that's just an issue with Webflow. So it's just so like this is kind of what I try and reverse engineer Webflow problems and create like specific solutions for Webflow. So if you were to do this with a HTML form in a um, different kind of traditional setup, it would probably be more like a form submit that you would click with. But it works real well. Um, I can go into here and show. Um, so this is how uh, what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go to stack member script. So they've got like all these awesome, like every week they're adding a new amazing piece scripts, but like you can see here, there's like 70 scripts. Like there's no way you're going to get all of these onto like your Webflow website, even if you used individual pages. Like you go in here, there's a nice piece of code. You copy and paste, you follow the instructions, you add in the attributes, and it works. Perfect.
Wow.
It's so cool. So this is like what I've been using is, you know, I've just created this is actually when I realized that there's multiple options and multiple pages. Um, so yeah, I've just added in all these member scripts and started using them in the project that I'm using, and it's just nice and neat. Works really
Mm.
well. It's fast. The one thing was that I noticed um, that you can see here we've got like document event listener. Um, so this was kind of talked about yesterday. So the timing issue, but what helped how I kind of worked around this was I put in these scripts. I could see that they should be working. They were working on Webflow, but they weren't working. And I literally just highlighted the script like this, got it, went over to here, went first of all debug the code, go down, and it's like basically saying that this code is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. So I just then said update as jQuery, like it's already updated as jQuery, and Slater just instead of having the script written like this, it
Mm.
converts it into a jQuery script, and it seems to work much. Seems to work much faster, and that solved the timing issue that I was experiencing.
Wow.
Um,
So you literally just said update as jQuery, and then it just converted.
Yeah, and you can see it down there. There's the updated version. And yeah, it works faster. I suppose, like, it's not fully, like, it is still waiting for the document to load, but yeah. And I think that yesterday, um, what is it? Jared is he?
Yeah, Jared. Yeah.
Yeah, Jared was talking about the stack of Webflow and where jQuery is in relation to the Webflow IS code.
Yeah,
Right?
it's hoist, I think was the technical term that he talked about, where essentially Webflow's code came first before the Slater code. Let me
Mm,
let me find the page that he got, because I think it was on Stack Overflow. Hoist sounds like, I don't know, a Scottish term for lumberjack throwing or something, doesn't it?
yeah.
JavaScript hoisting. Okay. I mean, I am so out of my depth, but essentially,
Well, it's. I don't think it's that, like, we don't need to get too technical about it, but from what I understood Jared was saying yesterday, it's easier to access the jQuery. So when I converted this to jQuery, like, just by asking Slater to update it, things seem to run faster. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. So basically now, long story short, I
yeah.
don't have to deal with the limitations of Webflow's character limits. I can just put as much code as I want in here. I'm just using as much member scripts as I can to solve different problems, and yeah, going from there.
I think it's important to say that, yeah, so there's the 10,000 character limit that you're negating, and then you've also got Webflow obviously has like, just by the virtue of how Webflow is made, there's script that is potentially prioritized over your
Mm.
script, or because there's a lot of jQuery, you might need to change your JavaScript to jQuery. And if you don't know how to do that, you can ask Slater. That is
Yeah,
literally what you just did. You were just like, update as jQuery, and then you just got around that problem. I've just found an article. I put it in the chat just now if anyone's watching, about hoisting, but essentially, so scope. Sorry, in a whole page of code, the code at the top will be read first, right? So if the Webflow code is at the top and then your code follows, essentially it kind of fucks up your code at the bottom. Excuse my French. So that is why I definitely shouldn't have sworn that. Sorry. Today I've had too much coffee.
don't worry, it's looking grand.
Yeah. No, yeah. Only one person's watching, and I hope it's not Mason. Just get a DM in my Slack. You're fired. But yeah, if you use Slater, you can obviously change the format of the code, and as a result, how that code will be read in that page of code.
Yeah, you can change the format of the code, but also you can get like super granular. Like, you can ask, what does this mean? You can highlight it and just say, explain. I'm just going to clear. Like, you can be like, explain this. And I'll just explain like one line for you. So you can debug using this. So this is where I was saying, like, I moved things like this. I used to use class selectors, but I don't. Class selectors are great, but you run the risk of someone duplicating a class, changing a class naming convention, and then your
You're
code.
buggered.
Yeah, for want of a better French word. Debugger.
I was gonna say another word, but then I thought, hey, Jack, learn from your mistakes. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so like I literally, I think this one I did myself maybe before Slater, but you know, there's ways of like improving on your code or updating or debugging or just like literally why is this not working. First of all, you can ask Slater to explain it and debug it, and it basically will tell you your code is good. So straight away you don't need to go reading through this nonsense and trying to look for like a spelling mistake or parentheses out of position. And like you can do that with ChatGPT as well, but this is all in one nice place. And that's why I like working with it. And then if you're like, why is I thought I've put this data attribute in the right place, what is going on, or what, just ask it to explain very granular things and debug and figure out the code yourself. And it's pretty cool. Um, like this one, what was I? Yeah, so like I suppose we'll get into this because this I'm pretty buzzed on this actually because one of the things that annoys me about Webflow is that there's one direction of data. So what that means is if you've got multi-reference fields, you can't nest. It's hard to have like to nest collection items inside. Like it's hard to nest like items inside a category. Like the workaround for that is putting your items, filtering the category, and then putting a static heading above it. Does that make sense? But you can't have like dynamic headings and then dynamic content inside it. Um, FinSuite solved this problem by using their nest attribute, but you have to manually add multiple multi-reference fields items into a multi-reference field, which is good, but it's a pain in the ass. And actually, sorry, I'll just clarify. Webflow do allow you to do that, but they limit you to 5 items, which is stupid. I don't know why.
Dude, I'm literally in the process. It's so weird you should be mentioning this because last night or in the early hours of this morning, I was redoing the Webflow website, and I'm trying to do like a website inspo. So to take all these I send out a newsletter every week with 3 inspo websites. Basically, I want to be able to filter with colors, fonts, industry, all sorts of different things. And even with FinSuite, it's a nightmare because you've got all these different CMSs that I need to integrate to one CMS, and you've got multi-reference fields. Like multi-reference just seems like a bit of a nightmare. Then you've got to have multiple single reference fields. Yada yada.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's
I'm
a
ranting.
pain in the hoop.
Yep.
So
yep.
I'm working with a product that has at the moment 750 checklist items, and that's going to go up to like 1,500 or 2,000. Like I can't have
my days.
Like I could work with a feedback loop through Zapier that sends it to Airtable and then updates the multi-reference fields and sends it back. But to be honest, that's a pain in the hoop, especially when the data is already on Webflow. Like I was like, this should be possible. Like I shouldn't be having to go on this huge roundabout circle. And I actually found I need to find this guy so I found this blog. This guy's this is class. What this guy
did. Can you put this in the chat possibly, or can you send me the? Because this looks helpful.
I will send this to. How do I chat?
You see on the right, it says private chat. You can just send it to me.
I'm sharing the whole screen here, so I can't really.
Okay, forget it. I'll
send it to you. I'll send it when I stop screen sharing. But this lad here, he done an awesome job. What he did is this really simple script, and essentially he's loading from our collection page the class of authors list and pulling it from that page and putting it here into this to this div, and it's identified using an ID. All right, that worked really well. So I was using it; it works really well. But again, like it's a really good script, really fast. People should use it. Check out this thing.
Okay.
My problem with this was the slug was dynamic, so you can connect this. I think he's got it. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is how it would look on Webflow. You know, you've your slugs that are dynamic, and you've got your static. Um, Everything else then is static. And I was like, okay, this works really well. But I didn't want something so static because I'm going to be using huge amounts of CMS data. So I this worked well, but I had to kind of come up with a better solution. It worked well for this start. So what I did was I started thinking in terms of Webflow. So if you think of, you've got your Webflow items, and if you nest stuff in Webflow, you can actually nest your category inside your items. Have you ever done that?
As in, you drag in another whole CMS like within the item, right?
Yeah.
And then you can have like categories or change it to whatever you can.
So
yeah, I think I know what you're saying. Is
so
essentially.
I know I'm kind of going conceptual here, but like you can have, if you've got a CMS items 1 to 10,
Yeah.
okay? If you nest a collection inside that, you can find the CMS categories, and then you'll have the items plus the category names, but you're going to have multiple, you know, it's going to be items 1 to 10, and then it'll be like category 1, category 1, category 1, category 2, category 2, category 2,
Yeah.
because they're
Okay.
nested inside there. So it's the categories are duplicated. So it's not
Right. Yeah.
the categories aren't a heading, they're a child of the CMS item that you want.
Yeah. I get it.
Okay. So what I've done here is this script basically says find the child, which I'm going to give a data attribute of group, and then nest. So then kind of rearrange it so that they're nested in according to the group as opposed to the child, the parent. I know I've gone complex, but
No. This does make sense. So let's give it like a concrete example, just so my tiny pigeon-sized head can do this. So let's say you have.
I can show you this. So we've got our groups.
Okay.
Now these here are just coordinated, just so I've got group 1. You can see group 2, group 3, just so I can see the colors.
Right.
So let's see what I'm doing here. So group 1, group 2, group 1, group 3, and then you've got item 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I'm trying to get these to nest in a way that the category, that they go into their category, as
Yes.
opposed to the category being a child of the parent. So that's what I'm trying, and that's what these colors here, like this is really basic. I was figuring this out yesterday, and I've actually implemented it into the project. But if you can see here, when I refresh the page, it categorizes them according to group 1, group 1. Now, this here is just for visual purposes, but this can be connected. This is static, but this can be connected to a CMS, and now your blogs, which would be, let's just talk about like Webfail 2020, could have a category up here called Webfail 2020, and then the items inside it, and Webfail 2023 and the items inside it, and Webfail 2024 and the items inside it. So it's completely dynamic, completely connected to the Webflow CMS. You're not dealing with multi-reference fields. What you are doing, what you do have to do in this same way, is the content all has to be on the one page. So different to what this guy did, whereas he's loading content from another page. This script,
You're pulling it from the CMS.
you're loading the CMS on your page. You're giving them a child that has the category, and then according to the category, it's reversing it essentially and nesting it in the opposite direction.
Okay, that's wild.
It's pretty cool. But that was all. This script was written, debugged all through Slater. And I had the idea. I knew what I needed to do. I was like, I knew where the logic, like I knew that Webflow went in one direction, and that if we could reverse it, then it would work really well. And like I know I don't have like this is just static, but essentially that's what's happening here. It's going from that, and you can see it you see that flicker?
Yeah.
That's the script
Just
taking
loading.
its loading
Yeah.
and rearranging things. So
Dude,
yeah,
that is crazy. That is such a useful use case for Slater. Like, okay, so one thing that we're about to do is to launch a library. So it will kind of be like a wiki of like everyone who is willing to share, you know, their code. But this type of thing is exactly the type of thing that I want to put in the library, where it's like, look, there's limitations in Webflow. We all love Webflow. Just to put that out there. Definitely, like, just to be really, really clear. But like, you know, there are things that, frankly, are just quite frustrating to use, and that's where like Slater can. There's little. You don't need to use Slater to be like, right, I'm gonna do some crazy like, you know, insane thing. It might just be something small, which a small bit of code, which actually has a huge impact on how you you know, how you make a website in Webflow, especially for
oh
client
yeah,
projects.
for
So it's really
sure.
cool.
Like yeah, for any of these things, like it's just we're standing on the shoulders of giants here. We're just making small little increments, like and yeah, and it's just just trying to make things a little bit better. But I can actually just show you here. I'll zoom in. You can see where I haven't yeah, you can see here, look, I haven't fixed my comments. So this here was a class selector. So you can see
Ah,
child,
yeah,
and you can almost see how I asked the question. Find the child and replace the. Oh, you can see here. Yeah,
yeah.
replace child element selector, child element. So wanted to group by.
And
But
that's literally the question you asked, right?
it was something similar to that. Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
find. I think I started with group a card. You know, a quite simple question like write a jQuery script that will allow me take a list from a page and group it with categories on the same page. That's what I started with.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that gave me a HTML. It gave me the jQuery and a bit of HTML, but it was they were they were the same family. Like it wasn't a parent-child relationship with the two the item and the category. So knowing how Webflow operates, I rearranged, updated the question to be like I need to target the child and replace it as it says here. And then I was like, I don't want to use, but because I don't like using class selectors. I like using data attributes to started
Target
like
that.
you know, change this to a data attribute or like add this data attribute and make sure that it still works and it kind of reverse and it's just it helped me in the process. And I
Yeah.
so I'll show you the other thing that I did was I don't have it here. I can do this right now actually. Is which I'll just say explain this code first of all.
For anyone that's just started watching, by the way, because I see that we got a few people in the chat and stuff, ask any questions. We're going through stuff quite fast, but yeah, if you're joining halfway and you're like, what's going on? Feel free to ask any questions and get involved. Sorry, back to you.
So this is a nice little hack, but I wrote this script and then I wrote, write me the HTML for the above. I don't even know what it's spelled out right. And it goes, yeah, sure. And you can see it starts writing out my HTML.
Whoa, that's so handy.
And I don't know if you noticed, but when I was trying to explain things weren't really working because I've got a HTML embed in here. And this is how I figured out what I wanted to do. And like it wasn't this complex. The HTML that I was given, it was way more it wasn't like it was well, it didn't have, it was, the HTML they gave me originally was with classes, not with data attributes. So I just started debugging it and updating it, and yeah, kind of mixed and matched AI, no code, Slater, HTML knowledge, and now there's and like there's things that I still want to tweak, but oh yeah, actually this here, look at this. This is why it works with, see the way it's group 1, group 2, group 3.
Yeah.
That's dynamic. So that can be connected. What I do is I connect dynamic attributes to the slug of my CMS item. And that's how it would recognize if things are CMS driven.
Okay.
So if you see all these things here, I've got a data attribute that is item, a data attribute that is group. So these items are going to be nested inside these groups, basically, is what this in down here in the target.
Can I ask maybe a really dumb question that maybe other people are watching who, hopefully know more than me, but let's say they don't. Attributes, classes, IDs, right?
Yeah.
We've got 3 different ways, as far as I know, of targeting, basically targeting what Slater knows about the Webflow project.
Yeah.
And you're saying classes, clients might change it on the front end, and then suddenly your code's messed up, and then you need to go into Slater and change the class name to whatever that is. But with attributes, the client can't, like, if they change the classes, that's not going to affect the code because that's not the thing that's linked. It's the attribute that's linked. But can you just give us a little bit more information as to why we should be targeting attributes rather than classes, and where we actually target those attributes?
Okay, so targeting classes, there's no reason to not do it. Class selectors work really well. The worry with using a class selector is if I change this now, so you can see here that it's group 1, group 2, group 3, because the original Slater code that I was given was targeting classes. So I reverse engineered everything. But if I go, I don't know, something happens, new dev comes in, new designer, and they're like, no, we don't want a yellow one here, but we want to keep that class because it's in other places. Let's duplicate the class and call it group 4, and we're now going to make it your code targeting the class doesn't work anymore because of that simple change. So in Webflow, I suppose we can actually kind of go through it here. Let's just do a little bit of an experiment. So none of these guys here have our lists. You can see, because these are just divs with nothing going on in them. All right, and the reason they're there, they're just divs with classes with nothing going on. So inside here, we've got our data attributes, our groups, and all this kind of stuff. So, and we have our old classes here. If I take this data attribute, and we've got this one over here. So I'll just take that one and I put it into this group and come down here to our custom attributes and put in the data attribute. And I think it was group 3, but I'll double check. And then we'll go back in here and find the target. Yeah, so it's group 3 and nest target. In theory, provided now we don't have a thing where it's reading both of them at the same time and it should nest it down here. There you go.
Yeah.
So the data attributes is what's targeting, allowing us target the element, not the class. And it means that you can customize this to your heart's content. You can turn it into a beautiful card. You can, add images to it or whatever you want, and you don't affect the data.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
there. Now you can also use IDs, and I don't have any issue with using IDs. It's like you can target an element based on an ID, which is great. The thing with data attributes is you can have multiple bits of logic attached to the element.
Yeah, whereas one ID is that's the ID.
Yeah, you would have to use an ID and then nest something inside and have another ID, or use a class within the ID, a class selector within the ID, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The other reason is that it's just becoming more commonplace in Webflow to use custom attributes and to target things. So MemberStack all uses attributes. Like if you think of a real simple thing, like I think it's data ms member equals name, and that's how you get the name to show on your page. So it's more that using MemberStack, the FinSuite attributes, I've become accustomed to using data attributes, and also the ability, like you can't see it here, but you can link your data attributes to your CMS items. Your custom attributes can be CMS items, and that's why I did this. So you can see group 3. If we add a collection to this, I would change group 3 to its to the slug, and that means that it's that's the thing that's been targeted, and it means that it's
okay. That's how, because I was looking at the link, it's in the chat if anyone's watching, multiple nested collections, and I was like, how does he put the slug there? That's using, so he's just pasting that in the CMS. He's pasting that in the attribute, in that bit below the attribute. Okay, interesting, cool.
Yeah, so what he's done here is this editor is inside a nested collection list, and you don't need to do that here, but if this code embed was inside a collection item,
then you would need to use attribute with the slug in the attribute.
Yeah.
Damn, this is a hefty session. This is like a cheese fondue of Slater Webflowness.
You're just loving your French.
Yeah, I don't know. It's lunchtime. Maybe that's why I keep referring to food. And
you need a baguette.
Yeah, I need to baguette and ride my bike with my little basket and my beret. Does anyone have any questions? We've got bulls in the chat. This is awesome, guys. Still have to make time to try this tool out. Yes, you do, sir. And also, if anyone's watching and is like, hey, I don't yet have the code to get in, let me drop it in the chat, because there's still a lot of people waiting to get in. And if you're watching this, then you deserve to get in. Bulls asks, where does the code get hosted once you are done writing it out in Slater? AWS. Keep it locked there. Do you have to copy everything back to Webflow? No. So how this works is essentially you put the code in. So when you connect your project from Slater to Webflow, you basically copy code snippet, whack it into the header tag of your project, just like you do with FinSuite attributes, right? And then it's connected, and now those two, Slater and your Webflow project are talking. And any code that you then write in Slater, you just hit publish, and that will publish on your staging domain or your production domain. Depends on, you can decide how you want that code to publish, whether you want that to be published per page or globally as well. You can decide that all within Slater. So you don't need to copy the code from Slater. Once you've got the code, bring it into Webflow. No, we don't want to touch the custom code editor in Webflow anymore. Done. Gone are those days, hopefully.
Yeah, so just on that, like it's actually a reverse of what we would normally do in Webflow, where you find a script, it does a function, you put it into Webflow custom code, either as an embed or as a global. But this is the reverse of that. And like in terms of debugging your code, it's live. I can show you like an example of if we just show that again, where I can break the code and we can see it in real time.
Sure. Let me add the. Yeah, we're looking at your screen now.
Yeah, so like if you refresh that, it's all working. But if I go into, this is it, and let's just get rid of that. Save. This should just break. There you go. So that's it. That's it in real time. Like that wasn't. I didn't go into Webflow or anything there.
Yeah.
And then.
Sorry, you talk.
Sorry. And then like if I go, I don't know why my code is broken. I type debug code over here, or click on debug code, and it'll just tell me that there's basically, parentheses and brackets all missing at the bottom, and it will give me a refreshed version of it. You can see there, it just added it. Copy it in, paste. I'm just going command save here because that's what saves it to dev, not production, and refresh my page, and it's back working. That's class. That's so fast.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going into Webflow, publishing. Is it working? Not working? Rewriting your code without any prompts. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I think another thing to say as well is that with Webflow and custom code, obviously you've got problems with multiple people editing the code. With Slater, you can invite people to see that project together and publish. Work in that code editor in real time. You can also publish, per page. I think I mentioned that. Sorry. And then I think the feature that you seem to be using a lot, Alan, which is really interesting, is highlighting the code and then just clicking explain code. Like you can literally just highlight a piece of code and just be like, explain this to me. I don't understand. Because
and then once you get that, you can be like, often the code is written as IDs and class selectors, and I just go, I want to use this data attribute to target this and replace this as a data attribute, and it'll work with you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that's something that's really important to say is that, yes, Slater will give you custom code. Like if you write, like, give me, I don't know, make me Snake the game. Like, I want you to make me Snake using HTML or JavaScript or whatever. Like, it will do that, but it might not be right when you just copy that code and paste it into Slater and then hit publish. It's not like that's straight away necessarily going to work in Webflow. So you need to keep prompting, highlight code, ask stuff in case it doesn't work. Because, for example, if you're copying, like I was using GSAP animations and I was copying like CDNs. So initially in Slater, I was like, give me the CDN for whatever. And then it didn't give me the most recent version for some reason. So then it's better to go like straight to the website, copy that CDN, paste it into Slater and be like, hey, I want you to use this CDN. So the more you use Slater, the more you'll learn little things, how to get the best out of Slater. But just in case you use it and you don't get things perfect straight away, keep prompting and give Slater baby language so that you can it can understand what you're trying to do as best as possible. But something that's really exciting that's coming very soon, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to say this, but I've started, is that the Slater app will be released at the end of the month within the Webflow marketplace, and what that means is that you can literally open Slater within your Webflow project, because right now you're toggling between the Slater website and then the Webflow project itself, whereas soon you'll be able to have it all in one place. Something to be said though is that obviously the UI for that is smaller, so I'd still recommend opening both. That's what Jared's been doing, but loads of cool things coming. Library functionality is coming, so you can actually, Webflow community can add code snippets. People that make content are going to have Slater black cards, which is essentially they'll get Slater for free. There's loads of cool stuff happening, so this is a great time to be using it right at the start before this whole thing takes off properly. So yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. This was your live stream, and I'm just kind of ranting. Is there anything else that you want to show us or tell us about Slater, or anything that's surprised you about Slater, maybe?
Like, I suppose the one thing is it's not like you're not going to get in, look at Slater and just be straight away everything is solved for you. You still need to think and act like a dev. So just don't give up on it. It's just try and work through the problems, and it'll support you, as opposed to saying do this for me and make everything exactly the way I have it in my brain without prompting it. I suppose. But yeah, I think the thing I'm most buzzed on was figuring out that CMS nesting, CMS kind of thing.
Yeah, that was a huge discovery, and one that I am gonna now implement on the Webflow website, I think. If anyone has any questions, so Andreas has just said, I can't register for early access on the page. Oh, you're looking at the new website. That is something that I will do. You don't even need to register for early access now, though, Andreas. I've just given you in the chat sign up page and the code, so you should be able to log in and use Slater today. But thank you. I will sort that out. If anyone has any questions, put them in the chat just before we end. But while you're thinking of questions, I'm also going to put in the chat the Slack group for Slater, because that is the best place to ask technical questions. Jared, the head of production, is in there every day answering people's questions, bugs. If you guys have feedback for the product, another place to post it is there. We do office hours every Wednesday. We do community spotlight sessions every Thursday. That is what you're at currently. But on Wednesdays, office hours will like live go through stuff. If you guys have problems with your project, so if you're using Slater over the course of the next few days and you're like, yeah, Jack, I've got this problem, I've really worked at it and I can't do it, I'm going to say, I don't know how to solve it. Here's Jared. But yeah, just to say that you guys do have support if you need it. So any final questions before we round up the session? Hello says thanks for the invite. No problem. Bulls is saying, wow, thank you so much for that breakdown, Jack. Super valuable. I appreciate that, Bulls. Strong name. Signed up and joined the Slack. Get in, my son. Wait, have I put the Slack in the chat? Let me just do that before.
No, you haven't.
What a knob. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible organizer. My mind is like so scatty. Any final words before we round up, Alan?
No.
No? You're done?
I think I'm done. Yeah, just try it out. It's really fun. Yeah, it's a nice, really nice tool. I really enjoy using it.
Awesome. I'm very glad, and I'll pay you later. Cheers, everyone, for joining, and thank you for sharing everything you have, Alan. And I'm very excited.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me. It was awesome. Good to talk to you.
Cheers. Bye, everyone.